Hey Steelers Syndicate, this is Joe Rockey coming back at you with another episode. And with this being the week of Easter or Passover, depending upon what you're following here in Steelers Nation, I just wanted to take a minute to point out about really how blessed we are to be in Steelers Nation and what our team is. And I really want to highlight the fact that the Steelers make decisions and then also learn from them in a way that the team I'm going to be comparing us to, the Baltimore Ravens, refuse to do. And yes, the Steelers have had problems in the past. In the very recent past, we had Antonio Brown essentially be an utter crazy person and not only ruin himself and the ability to be a functional wide receiver in this organization, he also then tainted Juju, and there was even a spillover effect in the Claypool. And the reason I bring this up is that the Steelers recognize this to be a problem, and they have since corrected it. I've done many episodes on here talking about what Deontay Johnson doesn't do correctly. But never once is there any conversation about what he's doing wrong off the field or in the locker room. The Steelers had this problem with their wide receivers that they cared more about themselves, their stats, than they did about winning. Every time we talked about the 3Bs, they were going to be the greatest thing ever. They never averaged more than 24 points a game. But they were all about their ego, their yardage, their fantasy value. And that has been removed from this team. And that is a great testament to Colbert, Khan, and Tomlin. Tomlin doesn't get enough credit for this. He kept a crazy person on the leash for way longer than anyone else was able to do. Remember, Antonio Brown got fired on his day off 2 weeks in a row by being an insane person. So the fact that we're able to learn from our mistakes and move on. And now I'm going to specifically what Khan has been doing for this team in free agency henceforth. Every single contract he has made has been essentially a very removable entity, either the end of the 2023 season or the end of the 2024 season. There are only 3 players on the Steelers roster that they are married to beyond 2024. And they are the ones that you want to be married to. Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, and Cam Hayward. Those never give you a personality problem. 2 of them held out with so much grace that never caused any type of a problem. I mean, during TJ's holdout, he was doing sprints showing he was the most athletic person on the planet. For those people who went down to Heinz Field during the years they weren't at St. Vincent to check that out. I mean, it was just, he was all in. He was still engaging with his team. And same thing's true with Minka. And then Cam is the soul of the Steelers. I mean, there's just no way around it. And when we look at the way that the Steelers have created themselves, is that if any time someone wants to become a personality problem, the Steelers don't have to live with it anymore. The last time we were held hostage was by Le'Veon. Le'Veon quit in the playoff game against the Patriots and then did his saga, which was obviously not awesome. And I point this out because the Steelers were on full display to the NFL about this. Why did you offer a running back money in the first place? To the running back, why didn't you take the money? What is wrong with you? Everyone is universally recognizing that in retrospect. And we look down at what's going on to that organization in Maryland. My entire life, really, since they went back to Baltimore, they have been a front office that has been successful and on par. Now, they aren't always having the best characters in the room. 2 people walk into a nightclub, only Ray Lewis walks out. That's not exactly what we're writing home about in the character front. But it's an NFL team, and not everyone's going to be perfect. I get that. I'm not trying to say that they should be. But what the Ravens have put themselves in right now, with Lamar Jackson is something that is going to be incredibly beneficial for the Steelers. Because being as optimistic and realistic, combining those two features as possible, the Steelers are essentially the second best team in this division. They are not, if you're turning on Madden, going to be an A-plus rating across the board. There's a lot of potential in this team, especially on offense that could get there. But as of right now, it hasn't been proven yet. And when it hasn't been proven yet, there's questions about whether it ever will be. So for the first time, I'm really looking at this and saying, Baltimore's not the enemy anymore. They're not the number one enemy anymore. It is without a doubt the Bengals. And it's not because Baltimore aged out. It's because Baltimore's front office made patently bad decisions essentially based upon NFL currency of greed. And I'm going to elaborate on that because it's not that the front office people want to get more money in their paycheck. The Baltimore Ravens have historically allowed players of quality to leave so that they can get a compensation pick in return. And they have had the most compensation picks in the NFL in the last 5 years. That's what they believe in terms of compensation value. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, normally do not let quality players leave. And going through and research for what I thought would have been a good episode where who were the best free agents the Steelers let go, it's not a long enough list. They have made mistakes when they thought a player was just done or not any good. That's what Vrabel was. But there is never a situation when there's a player who's still got a lot left in the tank that the Steelers say, I don't want to pay you if they can't. I mean, Hartgrave left because we couldn't afford him. That was a salary cap problem. That wasn't the Steelers didn't value him or didn't want to make him a Steeler anymore. Just the cap didn't allow it. Baltimore, on the other hand, doesn't play like that. Baltimore is under the mentality that they'll constantly be able to replace you, and I'd rather have a third-round pick than re-sign you. And in general, that's what they do. So that fast forwards to where we're at here with them dealing with Mr. Jackson. They realized last offseason, entering into the 2023 season, that they did not want to sign Lamar Jackson to the contract that he wanted. But they also knew if they do the non-exclusive franchise tag, which is what they ultimately did, they will get compensation for him. The problem for this is that what the Ravens did to get Lamar and to make him successful, they overhauled their entire team. And there's no one else in the NFL who is going to be willing to do that. To say, we're not going to be bringing in receivers. We're not going to really care about passing the ball. And we're just going to try to run it the whole time. The Titans don't even do that. Not to mention the history of Lamar potentially being healthy, according to the reports from their papers down there, to play in the final 2 regular season games and the playoff game. And he chose not to for his money. This is the face of their team saying he didn't want to play there unless he had had his contract. This is what the Steelers have removed from their organization. And the Steelers are all about business and winning. And this offseason and this training camp is all going to be about competition. And it's going to be immaculate. But as we look at what they did down there, they're being held hostage by their poor decision of not getting rid of him when they realized he wasn't their guy. They're trying to hold out for 2 first-round picks that no other team wants him, let alone willing to give away 2 first-round picks for him. And they're sitting here knowing that they have just disgruntled the player that they have placated. The best thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers is something I do not think is going to happen. But the best thing for the Pittsburgh Steelers is someone comes in and takes Lamar off of them after the draft. Then they either pay out of the wazoo to keep Lamar, because they have no offense without him, or they end up having nothing. Again, the Baltimore Ravens offense without Lamar Jackson is effectively what we were running with the Duck. It is going to be ugly, low scoring, and if that offense does not keep them under, or if the defense doesn't keep their opposition under 14 points, they aren't going to win. So I bring all this up to say that the Steelers have done things so incredibly well, and we are so fortunate that we have them. And we should be really glad that the Steelers have learned from their mistakes and they have put themselves in a position of great strength moving forward. And that this is an organization that has realized, sure, we've had some problems along the way, but they are correcting them moving forward. And it's going to be a great, great season, knowing that regardless of what Baltimore does, their greed has put them in a hole that's going to be an unwinnable situation. And for the first time in my life, the Baltimore Ravens have a massive downward arrow entering into the football season. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy about that. So here we go, Steelers. Here we go. See you guys tomorrow.